All right, guys, just want to take a quick second. This video is going to be a little bit different. I've had a lot of you drivers asking me about my surgery and the weight loss and all of those kind of things. So this video is going to mainly be about that. Tomorrow, today is February 1st, I think. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a video on the February openings across the nation. I got a couple recruiters. I'm still waiting to get back to me. I did talk to them today. They said they'd have it for me by tomorrow. For Texas, Florida, California. I know you guys have been looking, so I should have all that information for you February 2nd. But for today, this is going to be more about the surgery, the weight loss, and things that I've been going through because a lot of you guys have reached out. And I want to thank all of you guys that reached out. I mean, I think I may have just mentioned it a couple times in the video that I was doing this. Wasn't a big deal. And a lot of you guys, sent me emails saying, hope things are good, glad you got out, recovering well, et cetera, et cetera. So thanks for those. I do appreciate it. I was kind of overwhelmed by the number of people who reached out to me. So if you're wanting to know a certain part of the topic, I'm going to do what I always do. There's some things that I'm going to talk about, like the fact that I can't take the Premier shakes that most of you guys have done. Because a lot of you guys reached out to me and said, hey, I had the surgery last year, 6 months ago, or 10 years ago. And I've got a shake that I drink that I'm going to tell you about. I'm going to tell you what happened at the hospital, all those kind of things. So if there's just something in particular you're looking for, I'm going to do what I always do. There'll be timestamps down below of each topic of conversation so you can skip through if you're just wanting to know about certain things. The first thing I'm going to tell you is why I did the surgery. Yeah, I'm overweight. A lot of us drivers are. We're sedentary. And with Walmart, we don't unload product. We don't get a lot of exercise that we would get at some other jobs. July of this year, of 2022, actually, I weighed my highest weight of 487 pounds. Now, I didn't look like one of the 500-pound My Life people on TLC or whatever it was, because I carry my weight a little better than most, I guess. At least that's what I'm always told. I'm 6 foot tall, so that kind of helps stretch it out a little bit. I didn't really have any health problems. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have heart problems. I don't have diabetes. I don't have any. My blood pressure is normally like 127/76 or something like that. They always rave about my blood work. So why did I do this? Because I'm 47, soon to be 48 years old, and I had a problem. I overate, and I knew I overate. And I, for the last 10 years, have done keto. I've done fastings, I've done liquid diets, I've done the Miami Beach stuff, I've done pretty much any weight, what's the Weight Watchers, the Slim Fast. I've done everything, and a lot of it just didn't work for me, and I couldn't figure out why. And one of the things that I found out was some of it is family patterns. When I would come home from school as a kid, my grandparents would say, hey, there's a Schwann's ice cream freezer, full of stuff, go grab something or make a sandwich. My family's love language was always food. You guys may have the same problem, and you may wonder why you can't stick to a diet or beat the fat or whatever. It could be that. If you work for Walmart, I'm going to recommend that you use the Doctor On Demand app. If you're not familiar with what it is, let me know. Email me. I'll send it to you. Walmart has an app, Doctor On Demand, that will allow you Walmart drivers to use it for free, 100%. You can see a general practitioner if you've got the sniffles. You can see a therapist about your eating problems, smoking, drug addiction, whatever it is that you're dealing with. You can see a therapist for free in the Walmart app. And they've got a couple of other doctors and types of things that you can do. It's not the same as the Center of Excellence. It's not that. But this is just an app so you can see a doctor, and it doesn't cost you a dime. It doesn't go against your copay. None of that. It just costs you nothing. So I've been seeing a therapist. That helped a lot, but it wasn't going to be the only thing that was going to work for me, because I was told there's a gland on your stomach that secretes a chemical or a hormone called ghrelin. And that ghrelin apparently is what has the sensation of happiness when you eat. And they said that when because I had the sleeve done, my bariatric procedure was a sleeve. It wasn't the bypass. Like if you have diabetes or things like that, they usually do the bypass. But for me, mine was just the sleeve, where they make your stomach hold about 3 ounces. It's smaller than my fist. And I can only hold 3 ounces, and we'll talk about more about that in a minute, some of the struggles that I'm having. And if you guys have got tips, I'd love to hear them. Maybe some of the things that I'm telling you might help you decide whether you should or shouldn't do the surgery. But I started talking to the therapist, and there was a lot of things that I had issues with before the surgery. I had a lot of people tell me, oh, I know people who've blown through it, and you're just going to be wasting your time. You're going to be right back where you started. I was afraid that would happen. I was afraid, will it work? I mean, even though the doctors told me, oh, we're going to, remove that gland, and you're not going to have as near the cravings or the food satisfaction, because I'll be honest, to me, food was more satisfying than winning the lottery or sex or anything. And I have been told by a couple of different doctors and people that when you have a severe food addiction, which I do or did, which I'm working through, that those kind of things are going to happen. You're going to feel that way about food. And I did, and I always have. And that's why another reason that I couldn't stick to diets was because I had this issue. The other thing is, I would have had negative self-talk whenever, and you guys may have the same thing. Whenever you go and you're on a diet and you're in the truck and you're like, oh man, I didn't bring food, or oh, I got to get to a store and I need to buy something healthy, or maybe just don't want a damn salad. You don't want the food that you're supposed to eat because it's not pleasurable on a diet. I had a lot of problems with that. My therapist, that was one of the very first things we talked about, was negative self-talk. And that took a little bit to get over, because I've been trained for 40 some years that when I screw up, it's you dumb ass. Why did you do that? And then, well, shit, my whole day's screwed now, so I might as well just do whatever I want and start again tomorrow. And tomorrow's just as hard to get through a day as today was. So you're constantly setting yourself up for failure, not only physically by buying the bad food or doing what you're not supposed to do, but mentally when you beat yourself up, it causes a cycle that is extremely difficult to break. And my therapist has told me that if food addiction is the hardest thing to break, it can be harder to break than alcohol or drugs, because you don't need alcohol to survive. You have to eat food to survive. You don't need drugs to survive. Once you're on them, you've got a problem. You've got to work through it. This is the same thing. You have to have food. You're stuck on food. You've got the addiction. You've got to work through it. So I started doing that back in July. Before I even thought about doing the surgery, I thought I'm gonna start looking into doing the therapy thing. Once I started talking to the therapist, I started thinking, well, Walmart's going to pay for the surgery for the most part. I just paid my deductible. Walmart covers the other portion of it 100%. It's part of our centers of excellence. So take advantage of it. So I thought, why not? I'll do the surgery, and so what's going to happen? If it doesn't work and I blow through it, well, I'm no better off than I am now. But what else is there? I've tried every diet. I've done everything else I can think of to do. I've, tried working out with friends. I've tried the apps. I have the Fitbit. I've done everything I can possibly think of, and none of it works. So why not? We'll do the surgery and see what happens. Well, as I was talking to my therapist, I learned to use the surgery as another tool in my belt, not a fix-all type of solution. So I went to Cleveland because I live in Indiana. I could have went to Minneapolis. I think it was Missouri or Cleveland. And I chose Cleveland just because it was pretty much the closest one and easiest to get to instead of going through Chicago and all that stuff. Cleveland was easy. So that's why I chose that one. I went to the hospital, I think it was October. You'll have to go one day to the hospital before you actually have the procedure, and you'll meet with a bunch of people. This day was hell for me. The first thing I did was met with the head nurse of the program and the surgeon's sidekick, or whatever they call that. And they kind of explained what I was going to go through, what the surgery does, how it works, just general stuff. And at that point, I thought, okay, no problem. And, they said, oh, when you have the surgery, your diet will, have to change forever. And I said, well, I've been trying to do that for 10 years and that hasn't worked now. So we'll see what happens after. I didn't say that, but that's kind of my mindset. The next person I had to meet was with the actual surgeon, and she explained, okay, there's going to be a diet beforehand. You're going to, have this happen after the surgery. There's going to be a plan. And she kind of went a little bit more in depth of what the stuff that people said before. I started to think to myself, man, am I wasting my time? Is it going to work? I mean, I even called a friend of mine and was like, hey, I know you're kind of against the surgery, but this is what I'm thinking. This is what's going on. And he gave me his advice. And so I'm weighing on that, and things are starting to get a little heavy and whatnot. The next person I had talked to was a dietitian, and the dietitian basically said some things that weren't quite 100% true, or I may have just mistakenly misunderstood. But she was saying things like, you'll never eat pizza again, you'll never have sugar again because of a thing called dumping syndrome that some people get. There was all these things that she said I would never be able to do again. I could never have birthday cake. And I'm sitting here going, there's no damn way I can do this. I can never have pop ever again. I'm a truck driver. I live off of 2 liters of Mountain Dew like they're bloodstreams. I mean, that's just the caffeine and everything else. It's just, that was the way it was. There's no way I can take 47 years of a habit and just beat it with a surgery. This is not going to work. And I got emotional. My wife was sitting next to me, and we got the lady was kind of freaked out a little bit because maybe I reacted stronger than maybe she's ever seen or whatever. But she was kind of taken aback, and she's apologetic. She's like, "I'm sorry. I thought you knew kind of all this." And some of the things she told me I'd never heard before, not even from friends who've had the surgery. So I'm pretty at this point, I'm just like, I'm done. This isn't going to happen. I can't do this. All this negative self-talk started coming in, and my wife was like, hey, let's not do that right now. Let's just see what this is going to, let's talk to the next person, which was a psychiatrist. Maybe he can answer some questions, or, maybe he, whatever. So, okay, fine. So, I mean, literally 10 minutes later, we go into the next room, and we're on a Zoom with the psychologist. And he's like, so what are you thinking? And I basically I'm a very open book, as you guys know with these videos. I don't hold back. I tell you my thoughts, my opinions, the way I see it. That's it. So I told the guy, I said, I don't think this is going to work. She just told me I can't do this. The doctor's telling me this. They're telling me that it's going to do this and this. And I got friends who tell me this is a bad idea. And I just didn't know what to do. And I told the guy everything. And he's like, yeah, I don't think you're a candidate for this surgery right now. He goes, I think you need to see the therapist some more. Because I think at that point, I'd only been seeing her for a month. He goes, I think you need to talk to the therapist some more, and we'll redo this in a couple of months. Well, now I'm really starting to freak out, because I didn't want it to happen at the end of the year, because I wanted to make sure that it was done in this year. Otherwise, I'd have to start my deductible all over, because you've got to go through like cardiac clearance. And there's a bunch of other little things that you have to do before they'll do the surgery. And I was like, well, I walked out of there and I told the wife, I said, well, I guess that's over. I didn't think there was a chance that this would ever happen. So I went home. A couple days later, I had an appointment. I was seeing my therapist weekly. And you can see them as much as you want in the Walmart app. You can probably see them every day for free if you want to. Nobody's ever stopped me from all the appointments that I've ever had. So I went back home and talked to the therapist, and we went through some things, and I talked to another dietitian at home here in Indiana, and they were like, well, that's not quite the way it works. Yes, there's some things you shouldn't have, like don't eat sweets, don't eat the stuff you're not supposed to, but you may not have dumping syndrome. Not everybody experiences that. And yeah, you can have a piece of cake for your birthday, just don't eat the whole thing like you normally would. And so I started to think, well, maybe I could do it. And again, I went back to the whole, well, if it doesn't work, so what? I tried. It'd be kind of stupid to not take a surgery that Walmart's going to pay for, that maybe it'll work. And so I did that, and we got back on track, and I met with the psychologist again, and I explained to him what had happened, that I had just gotten bombarded 10 minutes before I met him. It wasn't the best way to meet him, and he understood, and we talked about the things that he was concerned about. And I explained to him that, I don't know what the surgery is going to do. I think it might work, it might not, but I'm going to do what they ask me to do to make this work if I can. And again, if I mess up, yeah, it'll suck, but I want to try. And he was like, okay, just keep seeing your therapist and we'll revisit this. But for right now, I'm going to put you on hold instead of a no. Okay, great. So another month later, I'm seeing my therapist. This was getting close to October or possibly early November. I don't remember. And I met with him again, and I had gotten more down the line with the therapist, and I thought at this point, I'm thinking, okay, I have met a lot of people, and I have a small Facebook group. If you guys want to be part of it, let me know. I'll add you to it. I think there's only like 15 people in there right now. It's a private group, but it's called Rich's Bariatric Pals. I found out once I put it out there that I was thinking about doing this, because I kept this real quiet on Facebook for months. I didn't tell anybody, I think, until it had to be October or November when the psychologist was like, I think we'll put you on hold. And I said, okay, so I need more information. So I started talking to more friends, more people, found out that there's a lot of drivers at Walmart that have had this. I've got personal friends that have had this, and I didn't know that they had done that, because they're more like friends from when I owned my DJ business 10, 15 years ago, and they came out of the woodwork and they're like, I had it done. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to pick their brains because they've actually went through it. So I started talking to everybody. And the more I talked to people that I know or that have done it, I started to feel a lot better because everybody was saying the same thing. I kept hearing, it's going to be the best thing you've ever done. They told me it's going to be hard in the beginning, but you will get through it and it will be worth it. So when I've got everybody telling me all these basically positive things about the surgery, I said, I'm in, I'm ready. I'm thinking I can do this. And I started food prepping. If you guys are on my Facebook, you saw me doing that. And I just started to do what I could do, baby steps, because the things that my therapist would talk to me about was, one, the self-talk. Like I said, the other thing we would talk about is riding the wave. Everybody has cravings. Everybody has wants. It's how long can you hold out before you do give in to that craving. And then the other thing we talked about was positive replacements. Do better, not perfection, was one of my mottos for a while, just personally. I never posted on Facebook or nothing, but that was just my positive self-talk, was do better, not perfection. So when I wanted something sweet, or if I wanted to cheat and have something I wasn't supposed to, I would go to Walmart, and in the cooler section, they have sugar-free puddings, and there's a rice pudding and chocolate pudding and vanilla pudding. There's a whole bunch of these items, and I said, okay, well, a lot of these are probably not going to taste very good, but maybe I'll find one that does. I started trying all the yogurts that they told me to try. All these things that I was going to have to eat after the surgery, I wanted to try them now to see what I liked. And that's where the protein shakes come in. I started doing that beforehand. And I thought they were fine. There were some of the shakes that I didn't like. There were some that I did. There's like bazillions of flavors and different brands and all this stuff. So I started doing all that. And I got myself to a point to where I knew, I was pretty sure I could do this. So the psychologist was like, okay, you're in the right spot now. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. He was the last piece. I had to keep seeing a dietitian for the nutrition stuff, because they put you on a diet before the surgery to shrink your liver and things like that, to help you lose a little bit of weight so that they can do the procedure easier and more efficiently. And then you have the surgery. I had mine December 15th. I had a really bad case of the not being able to get past the anesthesia. Most people go home the next day. It's supposed to be a very simple procedure. Mine lasted 3 days. I didn't go home until the end of the third day, and I almost didn't go home on the third day, but I didn't tell the nurse about one small vomit session that I had. I kind of just kept it under the wraps because it was much smaller than most of the others, and I kind of could tell, listening to my body, that this was coming to an end finally. And so they did let me go home at the end of the third day. Well, not home. They have you stay near the hospital for an additional week. And so we went back to the resort where I was staying, and I spent the next week there, and you're on a liquid diet. Popsicles, Jello. They consider the sugar-free puddings part of the liquid diet for some reason, which I don't know, nobody understands that, but they do. So I was doing that for about 2 weeks. It wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. My taste buds didn't want anything. When you have this surgery, everybody told me your taste buds are going to change. They did, big time. I didn't crave sweets at all. I didn't crave soda at all. I didn't crave a lot of things that I thought, I am never going to be able to not do this. I haven't had soda in 6 months now, and it's way easier now after the surgery than it was before. I've experimented. They're like, oh, don't eat this, don't eat that. Well, I think everybody probably does. I can't imagine I'm the only one. But I found out real quickly, One, if you experiment and play around too much, you're going to screw things up. The other thing is you are going to find out you probably don't like them anymore. Candy bars, anything chocolate for the most part has tasted kind of rancid or like the bottom of an ashtray, except for this shake that I found that I really like. That's my favorite thing. I live off of it because after the surgery, you have to get 60 to 70 ounces of protein a day, but you're not allowed to drink anything 30 minutes before, during, or 30 minutes after a meal. When you're supposed to eat 6 meals a day and you're not allowed to drink anything through those meals, once you get to like the 4th week, I think it is, you start eating softer foods and things like that. It's impossible to get the amount of water you need, to get the amount of protein you need, and to be able to eat those meals. It's almost impossible for me to take in that kind of food. I now at this point don't know how anybody could possibly blow through this. Maybe the hospital I went to did something different. I don't know, but I have not been able to take in things that I thought I would. So I don't like a lot of the foods that I used to like. Anything fried does not agree with me very well. It's like, even if it's just a plain chicken that was gently, that was fried, it's not breaded or anything like that. There's a lot of things I just can't eat anymore. So the things that you guys may want to know about now is what happens after the surgery. Okay, I'm 6 weeks out now. So basically my dietary restrictions have been lifted. It starts with the liquid diet, which I got through. Then it goes to a pureed diet, which to me was the worst part of the entire thing, because it doesn't matter what you puree. You're allowed to puree meatloaf as long as it's made with extremely lean meat, or you're allowed to puree chili from Wendy's because they drain the fat off. They have weird rules, or at least my doctors did. And everything you puree tastes the almost exact same, or it tastes horrible. I couldn't do chicken breast because when you puree a chicken breast, to me, it tasted like a cat pissed on a piece of paper. It was horrible. So I had to find things that worked. They kept telling me, listen to your body, don't eat too much, eat what you can, do what you can, and just do the best you can. So that's what I did. After the pureed stage, they go to soft foods where you can have like tuna or shredded chicken in a pouch or things like that. That stage was okay. I could deal with that stage. Even today, I still eat a lot of the same foods because they give you like Greek oikos or whatever it's called, yogurts. They're like 25 or 20 grams per container. I could do that. And there was a lot of times where that was the best thing I could do, because I started to realize like scrambled eggs, things that were soft but a little bit heavier than a liquid, felt a little better. Even though I wasn't supposed to, I started having scrambled eggs during the pureed stage because I thought, oh, it's super soft. Well, one doctor said I could, another one said I couldn't, whatever. So I'd had an egg one day. One egg is all I could take in. That was a full meal, one scrambled egg. Now I can do an egg and a half. If I'm really hungry and I go slow, I might be able to eat 2 scrambled or 2 eggs into an omelet, however. So I can't eat a lot of foods still, even I'm almost 2 months out now still. And I'm told that it's going to be that way. It could be that way the rest of my life. Some people, they stretch their stomach out a little bit. They take in a little bit more food. I'm not trying to do that. So when I start to feel, my body gives me warnings. The first warning I get is like your stomach kind of turns or rolls over. The second one is a little bit more painful and you start to feel way more full. I stop at the second one. If I don't, the third warning is I'll start to feel a little nauseous and like almost like I've got acid reflux or something, and that's it. So when my second warning comes, I've learned that's it, stop there. But the one thing that I really, really like is this shake. All right, sorry, I misspoke for a second. I had to get a drink of water as well. So the shake that I'm taking now is a plant-based protein. It's not soy, because there's a lot of things like, I'm not lactose intolerant or anything, but I have found that the dairy products do tend to weigh very heavy on my stomach. So yeah, the protein shake that I take is plant-based. It feels a lot better on my stomach. It's not heavy, things like that. Again, so if you want to know anything about that, I'll put the link for that down below. The other thing that they were worried about is you have to take vitamins after the surgery. You have to take a multivitamin and you have to take a calcium. The other thing is after 3 months, they want me to go get my blood tested to see how my iron is, because you're not eating red meats and you're not eating a lot of meats or things that would have iron in them. So they may want you to take an iron supplement. This shake is got, in one shake, it's got 35% of your daily allowance of iron. So I was like, this shake tastes better than those Premier shakes that I was taking. This shake is only 6 to 8 ounces of fluid instead of I think it's 12 that the Premier is. So when I'm trying to maximize my amount of protein and get the right amount of, to maximize the ounces to get the right amount of protein, this shake is way better. And it's a lot cheaper. Those protein Premier shakes, I think we buy them by the case. They're like $30 or $40, and you get, I think, 12 or 8. I don't even know. My wife buys them through Walmart because, we get the discount. And these shakes are, I think, half the price of the Premier shakes. And at the hospital, they had me try, there was Premier, there was some other healthy, whatever it was. There's the Boost, whatever all them shakes were. I've tried every one that's allowed on the list. And most of them either tasted like crap, or it's 12 or more ounces. And it's just, they were horrible. So again, like I said, I'll put the link down below if you guys are interested in that. But there's a lot of things that I can and can't do that are food wise. And if you guys have got ideas, I'd love to hear them, because I found, just mentioning it a little bit in that last video, that a lot of you guys have had this surgery that I had no idea. And like I said, I'm brand new to this. If you're thinking about doing it and you have questions, my email is in the description down below with the links. Send me an email. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I'll tell you my experiences. Everybody, could be different. Most people can handle anesthesia and they go home the next day. That wasn't me. Some people blow through the surgery and they eat whatever they want. I can't do that. If you guys have got things you want to know or tips or whatever, send me an email. I'll be happy to hear any of them. If you want to be part of the Facebook group, let me know that too. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's kind of what happened for me. That's where I'm at right now. They tell me in the next year that I'll lose, another 100 pounds, I think they said, or something like that. I weighed in today at 381, which is the lowest that I've weighed since I got married 7 years ago. I think I was 380 when I got married. And when I graduated high school, I was 260-ish. And that was 1994. The doctors are telling me that I should get down to between 200 and 220. And I always make the joke that I haven't weighed 220 since birth, because I honestly couldn't tell you the last time I weighed 200 pounds. When I was in high school, I didn't look heavy. I got teased for being fat, but when I go back and look at pictures, I'm like, that was so not the case. But again, it's that negative self-talk, because when I was told in high school I was fat, I always told myself I was fat because that's what I was told. I didn't know any better. So if you can get with a therapist, do it. Even if you're not going to do the surgery, I think it would benefit you guys greatly. But again, I'm going to wrap this up. If you've got any questions, if you've got any thoughts, if you've got any tips, tricks, if you got a recipe that works for you, let me know what it is. Because right now, I'm taking, that was fun. I'm taking in 2 shakes a day. I really like the shakes. I don't plan on changing anything with the shakes if I don't have to. But yeah, appreciate any of your guys' feedback or thoughts. So thanks.